Hello, guys, and welcome. Today we have two very special people. They've both competed recently in the Quicksilver Cup event in New Zealand, and they both top 8'd. In fact, James actually won the whole event. He came first place, and now he has a physical trophy sitting in his room, which he has to figure out what to do with. And so today we're going to have a little interview that'll go through their deck list. They both played a deck that they like to call Kentucky Fried Suzaku, and I'll let them talk more about it. So, how are you guys going?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Going good, Justin.
That is good to hear. So, can you guys just tell me a bit about this deck and why you chose to play it over the last weekend?
Min, do you want to take us away?
Sure. So so coming into the QS Cup with like about a little under 2 weeks remaining, we still had no idea what to bring to the QS Cup. We were going between like aggro to control, or even allies, but we couldn't find anything to settle on. And that's until James created the Kentucky Fried Suzaku.
Yeah, so I think our thought process going into the QS Cup was that you're either a Ryle deck or a sensor deck. So we were, as Min said, we were going back and forth between those, and we thought it would be a cool idea if you could be both a Ryle and a sensor deck, which is something that Suzaku can do when you slot the Ryle package in as well. So I think that gave us a bit of an edge where we needed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very cool idea that you guys had. You had both, like, the Ryle and the usual cards that go into a Suzaku deck. And so, yeah, why did, like, I guess what I should ask is, how does a game for this deck usually play out? Because it is a bit different to the traditional Suzaku list.
Okay. So the deck you can play very reactively. You don't need to play all your cards like a typical Suzaku aggro does, because if you look at the deck list, there's like no Rokokos, which kind of says something about the deck. You don't need to go low influence, and you can kind of just hold up your hand and play in response to what whatever your opponent does. For example, you still have like your 2-turn kill hands. If you have like 2 burn spells dealing to about, how much do you do? Like 4 or 5? Into like materializing impact hammer to your heated vengeance spicing throw to do like exactly 15. Or you can just simply keep everything up, dump your Ryles. If your opponent plays allies, you can use demolitions or ping them off with like fiery interference.
Yeah, I think there are a couple different ways that you can play the deck, as Min mentioned. I think that comes down to some of the utility that's been printed onto efficient burn spells. So fire interference can stop a fast cure or a lineage release from a serene spirit, which effectively makes it an 8 damage for a 2-cost card, which is lovely. I'll take that ratio any day. You've got things like the Ember Crypt Burn in there as well, which is really solid against the level 3 decks, especially the Ryle decks that are looking to Ryle or Creative Shock in your end step, pitching a float or a liminal guide, and then once they pass priority back to you in your end step, you can then Ember Crypt Burn them. Makes the decks like Xander go down a card, which really hurts. You could also do an Ember Crypt Burn on like a Juggernaut or a Thieving card in that matchup, which was the finals, and Min and I did go up against a lot of Xanders in the course of the tournament, which was expected to be a pretty strong pick, and which we have a favourable matchup into. A lot of the times, typically, your Suzaku lists want to level up to level 1 almost immediately, and we even considered running Ignis Deus to perhaps cheat a level up, get a sensor out in the first materialization. You could even GCR off the back of that to refill your hand, but at the end of the day it felt a bit clunky. But with that said, you don't actually have to level up to level 1 all the time either. Depending on the matchup, you could get a Safeguard or a Tariff Ring or even a GCR, depending on if you need to close the game out in 1 to 2 turns, or if you're going to play a long game and have access to float or cycle.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a really cool concept where you have a lot of flexibility, a lot more flexibility than you did in the past, and it's really cool that they have printed all these like new damage spells that don't just do damage, they also do other things with utility, as you mentioned. So like the Milk Burn or the Fire Interference. But with this deck in particular, why did, like, I know James, you in the past, you've always been a fire aggro player. You've played a lot of different flavors. You've tested a lot of different flavors of fire aggro. So why did you end up deciding to play Suzaku specifically over some of the other stuff, like maybe Lorraine or Tony and all those other champions?
Yeah, so we were testing fire as an element in general. We had some more ally focused builds, as well as some more spell heavy lists such as Suzaku, and we were finding that in certain matchups, such as the Advent CL or the likes of the Onsols or the Merlins, that they were able to deal with ally based decks a lot more efficiently and comfortably than they did before, especially through like a flame sweep or a fluffy shopkeep or sort of shadows, etc., etc. So matchups that probably previously felt a lot better now feel a lot worse to run into. So that definitely played into the decision. I think as well, the addition of Peppered Chef is kind of turns it into a bit more of a combo list where you can get your 12 or 20 damage turns off a lot easier than perhaps you could before with Broken Promises, which only has one use essentially, or that's how I would play it, only for Suzaku, whereas now you can use a Peppered Chef not only to get more damage off the combo, but you can sacrifice a Liminal Guide if you need to fix a bad hand. You can Peppered Chef what I call the Ghost, the Vengeful Paramour, as well. And yeah, the deck got a lot of new tools that all synergized really well together. Three of Hearts as well is a crazy card, I think. It's just a power crep 2/3 essentially, but it can also use as almost like a third copy of your Creative Shock or Rile with the draw discard if you can hit a float.
Yeah, I think that's a really like cool combo that you've developed. I think one other thing that like it makes it really hard to play into as well is that combo of like Peppered Chefing your Suzaku is quite difficult to interact with. It's like if you kill the Suzaku and responds at any point, it just comes back anyway. If you kill the Peppered Chef, you only -4 damage from them, and the unenter will still resolve. You'll still get Suzaku will swing again. I think the only thing that effectively deals with it is like something like Ensnaring Fumes or Stifling Trap, which to stop the actual Peppered Chef. But apart from that, yeah, it's a combo that is actually a lot more like protected than some of the previous forms of like the fire aggro combos.
Yeah, definitely agree. A cheeky Expeditious Dream Fairy could shut you down a little bit as well, but that's holding up 7 cards. So but yeah, it is a lot easier to pull off, which is very nice.
Yeah, it's a very strong deck. And with the particular cards you had in your deck, why did you choose to include the Rile package when this is kind of a deck that's more traditional aggro and doesn't focus on card draw?
I know Min loves the Rile package. Do you want to chat on the Rile package, Min?
Yeah. So the Rile package is your typical cycle kind of engine that's like very splashable in like all the fire decks. And one of the things that some players might not know is when a card becomes ephemeral and it gets like flame swept, or it won't trigger, like say Lorraine level 2's on kill, or because it never hits the grave and it gets banished instead. So a Lorraine can like
as well.
Yeah, Sadie as well, which is great.
Okay, so it's like a very like well protected. I guess it protects itself from your opponent's effects, which is a bit it's something that maybe people don't appreciate. Not like it's better than having like the traditional Arthur red hair in that sense. Yeah, and are there any other like key cards in this deck that you want to talk about that you might not have already mentioned?
A few of the key cards are like Searing Truth and Feminine Decree, just because they have they can get you your quest counters a lot faster, giving you two quest counters.
It's quite surprising the amount of quest counters you can get. You can get from 1 to 7 in one turn with a double searing truth or a vermilion decree, impact hammer, ping ping, as we call it, the Suzaku prereq trigger.
Yeah, I've been hit by the ping ping many times. Yeah. How about things like you got here Shadow the Brittle? What is that trying to target?
The Shadow Brittle's primary targets is usually like safeguards or terraformings. It's a cheap costing spell that's usually always going to be online as long as you have like your Suzaku on. And we're never flipping Suzaku unless it's on the kill turn. Usually, where we're comboing out upwards of like 20 plus damage because pre-rec we might have like 7 to 8 cards in hand and we just like throw all our burn spells before picking it up again to go and play our Peppered Chef combos.
There's also a nice interaction that came up against the Fractals player at the QS Cup when he played a Zhang Jiao to draw 2. And if you can hit one of his items like a safeguard or a null or a sensor, you get the draw 2, because if you destroy the item, you draw into memory. So once the Zhang Jiao effect resolves, you're on either a 1 or a 4 cards in memory, which can be nice.
Oh yeah, I've actually never thought about that interaction because no one's really tested Fractals that much since then. Yeah, that is a cool little interaction that you can do to kind of mess up their turn a lot. And then one other card I want to talk about is Restorative Flame. So this, like, how often does this come up? And, does it win you games?
It comes up a good amount of times and it will catch opponents off guard. The deck can already set up a good amount of fire, both for the Suzaku or like Restorative Flames. And it can literally win turns if your opponent's calculating for exact lethal, and then you just pop your Restorative Flame, heal between 2 to 6 to get you out of that range for the clapback.
Yeah, I've tried to like go for a kill when I was playing WhatDoYouMinh, especially. That was sad against James, and then he just like plays this card, which normally Fire Aggro doesn't have reactions to play, but then now that you have this, it's like it makes the kill turns for your opponent a lot more awkward to play, and you have to think about this.
I think the addition of cards like Restorative Flame, Shadow the Brittle lets you play a bit more reactively as well. So you're not necessarily the ones driving the tempo of the game, or as proactive as a normal aggro deck is. So it gives you options, makes your opponent hand down, and we are so potent on the clapback, as we mentioned. 15, 20 damage is not unheard of. People think they're safe. At Lorraine level 2 with 4 health left. That did happen, and it turned out they were not safe, unfortunately.
Alright, so moving on from that, like, what did you guys find was the worst matchup over the weekend, and how did you play around it to beat it?
The worst matchup I had was going up against Onsol when they just found like all their tools. So if a Ryle deck was to find their Ryles, they reduce to Ash, to deal with like deal with whatever I put out, it just feels hopeless at times. Like I had a game where I started first, passed over to my opponent, materialized a sensor. They still managed to double Ryle into finding their reduce to Ash, and then making my sensor turn completely nullified.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. So there's a lot of like this nuance that'll come up now, especially since everyone's playing Fire decks. Like, everyone's basically playing the same like 20 cards in every deck, so they'll probably come up a lot more as well, which maybe people will have to find a way to deal with. Are there any changes you guys are thinking of for this deck list in the future, or anything that you might actually be expecting other people to come up with to beat this deck?
There'll probably be more nullifying lanterns, because throughout the games that we've had, like between the both of us, not many or had null lanterns in the main or side at all. So moving forward, we're probably going to be expecting a lot more of that.
Yeah, I think the deck was a good pick for the tournament. We were we're thinking that these days there aren't that many spare spots in the material deck anymore, especially if you are playing a Looking Glass deck, because you typically have your 3 champions of Spirit, Looking Glass, some sort of Distortion Regalia, and so people really only running Sensor or some other, like usually 1 or 2 types of, targeted kind of hate card. And at the moment with Lost in Thought ban, Genbu has, somewhat or mostly exited the meta, and so no one's running Null anymore. So no one's expecting the speed of the deck, the need to run Null Lantern so you can catch a lot of people off guard. I think given the strong matchup into Luxem Xander, Fire Luxem Xander, that is, that might be hopefully a relevant contender in the meta, and so that could change and shake things up. But as people bring in more and more Null Lanterns, as Min mentioned, that can get a bit annoying, but we do have the Shatter the Brittle. In terms of any other changes we were going to make, we think the deck is pretty cohesive, pretty synergistic at the moment, and everything more or less feels pretty good to see in any given hand. The consistency of the deck is something that we both enjoyed through the 12 float, 12 cycle rather, package. I think the sideboard could probably just shift with the meta, and depends what you see in the local scene, but other than that, we're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the deck did actually perform extremely well, as the results show. And I think this deck is it's a very cool take on the traditional Suzaku list. And I love that you guys have made use of a lot of the DTR cards that have come out, which, like, for example, before they were playing planted explosives without prep counter generation, so it was kind of like Suzaku players were just playing really awkward damage spells just to get their what are they called? Quest counters up. But yeah, now that you've made use of these new cards that have come out, things like Fiery Interference and Emacrypt Burn, the deck it looks extremely strong, and I honestly can't wait to give it a shot as well. Just because I want to be the one holding up the 8 cards and being like, I'm an aggro deck, what do you, man? Like, yeah, it's very hard to play into as well from my own experience. So, congratulations guys on your, outstanding performance at QS Cup, and honestly, I want to say good job for making this deck list, because it's extremely cool to see. It plays differently to traditional Fire Aggro, and I love it. Honestly, I love this deck list. I don't know, it's just a different take on Fire Aggro that is very hard to play into, and I just love the way it works. It has a nice combo with the finisher as well. But yeah, so that's been the Kentucky Fried Suzaku deck list. I guess we're gonna try to make that name stick, as I can tell you guys love that name, especially you, James. You love your KFC. So yeah.
I do love some KFC.
Yep. So before we wrap this up, is there anything else that you guys, any other comments you want to say? Any other shout-outs you want to give before we wrap up the video?
I think I'd just say Ryle's fine.
Yeah, Ryle's a fair and balanced card.
Yeah. Do you want Ryle banned, actually, is another question.
I mean, it works well in this deck, and I like this deck, so naturally, no. But I think it does move the meta in a different direction, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can be very strong, can make some games a bit high rolly, maybe. I think that's my least favorite aspect of it. There are tech cards that do exist. We're going to see Boston coming up soon. This is the first tournament of the new meta, so I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I am super excited to see what happens at Ascent Boston in, I think it's like 10 days away as of the day of recording this, so it'll be interesting to see if anyone's created something that deals well with just everything, all the Ryle deck, all the Fire decks. I do want to see someone cook up like Wind and Water as well, because they're kind of a little underrepresented if we look at the stats from the previous event. Yeah, it'll be good to see. So yeah guys, that's been us with Creative Shock. I actually think I completely forgot to mention this, but yeah, Min and James are both Creative Shock team members. They're both players. They rep our colors, which apparently none of us chose to wear our jackets today, but don't worry about that one. Yeah. So that's been us. We're showcasing Kentucky Fried Suzaku. This is their deck list that Min and James came up with, and thanks for watching the video, guys. Let us know if you got any questions about it. We'll answer them in the comments below. So yeah, thanks for watching.
Alright, thanks for having us. Bye.
might be giving away some trademark secrets here, but I think Wind CL can be promising. I think that new card, what was it, Chrysalis, the caterpillar lady? It's an obscenely strong card.
Yo, you gotta hush on that secret tech. Yo, Pokemon.
Oh yeah, my bad.